the word passion means pain. And so you can be really passionate about something, but it doesn't mean it's going to be without difficulty, isn't going to be without trouble. Like passion is pain.
I would say whatever it is that you really truly want to do, follow your heart, because it's going to be hard anyway, so you might as well do it for something you really believe in.
Today I'm joined by Kristina, a firm friend of mine over the years, who is always a ray of sunshine and an absolutely wonderful human being, who has been investing in property now for, well, longer than I've been investing in property, and I've been doing it for over 6 years. So Kristina, do you want to just share a little bit about who you are, like in brief, and how people may have seen you before? Because there's actually a few ways people might have seen you before. So just share a little bit about yourself. That'd be great.
Hi. So it's 8 years I've been investing. Maybe it's 9.
I think it's more like 9.
9.
Yeah.
I think I did property training 9 years ago, but I think I've been buying solidly for 8 years. So I've been in like the property scene for 9 years. Imagine when it's 10, then you feel like old. But
that's me with trading now.
You still look like you're 10.
I know, it's the Botox. It's the Botox. Actually, that's enough. No, I haven't. No, there's no Botox in this face right now, but there will be. I'll give it as a Christmas treat to myself, I think.
So we've known each other a long time, haven't we? But you just look the same.
Not changed. No stress, you see. It's all that financial piece from trading, I tell you. Although the only thing that has aged me is property. Yeah, definitely.
Oh, me too. I need Botox. If anyone needs Botox, it's me. So yes, I've been investing for 8 years. Learned about it 9 years ago. Used to be a full-time singer. And then, when did we work together? Maybe 5 years ago.
5 years ago, yeah. 5-6 years ago, yeah.
I kind of hit the ground running with property. I just went, I'm quite obsessive. I'm like all or nothing, which my husband just cannot bear, but I can't change it really. I'm just so like up and down and just took myself at it. And so I did hit the ground running. And I must love it because I'm still doing it. And I just wouldn't do something unless I loved it. So it did like kind of get me. See, probably the only thing I've ever loved other than singing and performing, that was like my first love. Well, music is, and then property definitely came along and was like the next like romance that I had. Yeah. So I think we worked together, didn't we, on like the Rich Dad program. So first I crewed and helped. So that's how maybe some people will have seen me. And then I was like a speaker for Rich Dad, Poor Dad and Homes Under the Hammer, all the other. It was just all the same thing really, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That was like all over the country, so you might have seen me in Wolverhampton a few times. That was a favourite place to send me to. Wolverhampton, Coventry, they love to send me there. So you might have seen me around as a speaker. And then I'm always on Instagram now, got gobbing off.
Yeah. So what's your Instagram name in case people haven't seen you there?
That's a good one. The Good Life _property investor. The Good Life _property investor. I'm nearly at 10,000.
Oh wow! Congratulations! I was getting towards 10,000 before Instagram decided to shut my account, thinking that I was the fake one, even though there was literally hundreds of fake accounts pretending to be me. But hey ho, that's a story for another day. Yeah.
It is just like Instagram is so. It's just like getting blood out of a stone.
Well, this goes back to the conversation we were having off recording camera about certain institutions being a law unto themselves and having no one to really answer to, and just
there's no comeback.
No comeback whatsoever. We were talking about it in terms of mortgage companies and how we both have got very similar frustrations with the way that mortgage companies behave. So let's just go straight in there for the jugular. Let's talk about some of the because you're a very successful property investor, absolutely killed it. We'll dig into more of that story as we go through, but let's share just some raw and real difficulties that you've experienced in property over the past 8 years.
Okay, well, so the frustrating thing is with mortgages, for me, I didn't have any money when I started, like a lot of people. Didn't have savings, so I need to use mortgages. That's part of the way that we do it. Like we borrow money, then we refinance out on a mortgage at a cheaper interest rate, and then we're left with a cash flowing asset. That is the way that it works. So the frustration comes when you need them and they don't give a shit and they just make their own rules up. And I feel like since COVID, everything has become 10 times worse, simply because people are less productive. The staff are working at home, having brews and maybe checking their emails once a day. I mean, it's just beyond a joke. So the frustrations that I'm having at the moment are, there's we've gone for a particular lender. I feel like they don't really want to lend, but
Can
they
you
still
name and shame, or are you holding off from naming and shaming?
can I? Should I? I don't know.
It's up to you. It's up to, I mean, I'm a name and shamer now.
Begins with a Q. They begin right. They are despicable. So the name begins with a Q. There's not that many that begin with a Q. So
There we go. We'll leave it at that. Yeah, yeah.
That. So they just the stuff that they've done. So they charge you a fee up front. Then this is Empress Hall. So painful. I had a valuation on Empress Hall. Don't even get me going on valuers, because that.
Oh, they also allure onto them. So
again, don't care.
And often not actually based in any fact. Completely their own opinion. You can give them comparables. I've had it where valuers, I've given them a comparables pack and they said, I'm not paying any attention to that. It's like, but this is research that's gone into proving what the value of this property is, and you've completely disregarded it. Okay.
Oh, well, let's just go straight into that then. Let's just go straight into that with Empress Hall. So I had a valuation on Empress Hall 3 months after I purchased, a RICS valuation for 620k. Then a year later, when I'm now mortgaging the property, I have to get another valuation, RICS valuation for the mortgage. Now the valuer comes round. He's I'd say 40-year-old man. His head is like this. Wow, I've never been to a place like this before. How much to charge? And I'm like, it's all in the pack that I prepared for you. It's all there. Our turnover, our profit today, our nightly rates, our cleaning fees, VAT, it's all there. Everything you could possibly need is in the pack. I give the man the pack. He's skipping around, loving the place. Said to me, how do you value a place like this? And I'm thinking, well, I've paid $2,000, so hopefully you know. Because
hopefully, yeah, this is literally your job, my friend.
Fingers crossed, you've got an idea. And then I said, well, find a big expensive house and use that. So as well, the mortgage company have put Empress Hall onto a buy-to-let product. It's like a buy-to-letty product, even though the house cannot be used as a buy-to-let because it's got full planning. It can only be used as a holiday let. It's 4-story, 10 bedrooms, like a hotel. It's massive, right? It's a commercial element. So the mortgage company have asked him to do a commercial val. Right.
Yeah.
I thought this is going to go swimmingly. I've given him everything.
Shouldn't they really do that based upon the figures and the turnover and everything like that? Surely.
Yeah, surely. That's what you think. Of course. So I'm like, this is nailed on. Like there's nothing really that could go. I'm thinking 750, right? This is a 750 house. He comes back at 450k. Bearing in mind I bought it for 400. Spent 150k on it. So he told me he would have it back to me in 10 days. Weeks and weeks and weeks go by, and then he just sends over this report that basically says, so he's got this, he's not even measured it. So when he was viewing it with me, I thought it was a bit odd. He stopped taking pictures. He couldn't be bothered. He stopped taking pictures of all the rooms because there's loads, and he wasn't measuring, so he didn't measure the house, which again is quite odd for a £2,000 valuation. So he's got the size of the house is wrong. He's completely wrong, and he literally puts. He kind of refuses to do a commercial valuation because he said listen to this, there is no demand for Airbnb holiday lets in Blackpool.
What?
It's one of the most visited destinations in the UK. What are you talking about? And the whole reason that I bought Empress Hall is because there's a huge lack of large properties. That's why I bought it.
Yeah.
So bearing in mind, when I got the report back, we were like at 90% occupancy, a grand a night through the school holiday. I'm just like, okay. So because he said there's no demand, he just didn't go into figures. Just skipped it, didn't bother doing any of that, said there's no demand, and then said this house would simply be sold on as a residential house. But it can't be sold as a residential house because it's in the Blackpool holiday zone. It's not allowed to. It's not mortgageable. Can't get that's half the battle of why I can't get a mortgage on it. I'm struggling to get a mortgage because it isn't a house. That's the issue. That's the problem. So anyway, he just puts 450. Then he gets these comparables from this like really nice area, but he on purpose finds like he's getting comps of 4 or 5 bed detached houses, so they're literally like a third of the size, and he's finding them at 450. But you can easily get comps for 900k for detached houses. area. So he's literally finding cheap properties that need a full refurb. And he just said the owner hasn't spent any money on refurbishing this property, which is why I valued it at 450. So then they send it to the mortgage company. The mortgage company then say, nah, this isn't right. So they appeal it. After they appeal it, they then decide they don't want anything to do with it, and they sit on their hands and they're like, actually, we've changed our mind. So then when VAS go to them, they then ignore VAS, the VAS panel. They ignore. So like weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks are going by where I think that this is being dealt with. It's not being dealt with because they've decided they don't want anything to do with it. Wow. So then my broker Matt, I'm like, what is going on? And like Matt sends over, he's literally like, the size of the house is wrong. These are the receipts of the refurb we've spent. I'm sending before and afters. I'm like, mate, we've built a car park.
Yeah.
What I'm talking about? Like, it was derelict land. We've built a car park. Receipts, before and after pictures, the planning, the fact it cannot be used as a residential house. It's not permitted in the area. And the guy, this is what the man says back. Please tell the broker to stop sending me this information. I stand by all of my comments. It is a residential house, so he's obviously not read it. The owner hasn't spent anything on the refurbishment, and they are free to go to Rick's. That's what he said.
So in situations like this, what do you do? Because I would want to take them to court because they are actually not doing the job they've been paid to do.
Well, then the only thing we can do is go to Rick's because no one cares. So the lender's just like, not a problem. And all of this has happened. And then because base rate's gone up multiple times, they've gone, you're going to have to start your application again. So they now listen to what they want us to do. They want us to now pay like an extra % in interest, but then pay for that pay for a retype of that valuation, which we've appealed. So my mortgage broker's going, the reason why this case has expired is because you didn't reply for months.
They don't care. That's not their problem.
Like, no, ask me.
I've had the same thing happen on a buy-to-let, which was simple, and it took more than 9 months to get it over the line. And then I started, do you know what, sod you. I took money out of my trading account and I bought it in cash because I was just so sick of them.
They're despicable. It makes me so angry. But then at the same time, I'm like, if I continue to grow the portfolio, I need them. But I hate that I need them. I hate it so much because they are just like ungoverned, do what they want. There's no repercussions. They don't care if you complain. They don't even reply to the complaint we've made about them. So we've complained about them. We've complained about the Rick's, like the valuer. Nobody cares. No one can be asked getting back to you. So now my broker's now arguing with them saying, if we're starting this process again, then we want a new valuation. But they're like, I don't think that's possible.
What I had happen once is when we had to get a new valuation, they booked the same valuer who'd already downvalued the property. I was like, what are you doing? This makes no sense.
What is wrong with you?
Yeah.
Where are these people from?
So right at the start of this conversation, you said you love what you do. Is that still true?
I must do, because there's something in me that do you know what it might be? I just like buying stuff.
Yeah, I love spending money. It's great.
I think I like buying stuff. I like collecting stuff, and it just tends to be houses because I like getting a deal. So I love getting a bargain. There's something in me that loves getting a bargain, loves getting a deal, and that I don't think it's ever going to go. So what happens is I buy it and I have to deal with all this shit. And then I go, oh God, and I'm not doing this anymore. I've got enough. We don't need any more. This is the end. And then I go on Rightmove and then I see another bargain.
When you've got those eyes, it's hard to not see, right? Completely. Completely.
Really, but yeah, I do love it when the money comes in every month. And there's the thing is, whatever it is you do, there's stuff about it you're not gonna like.
Yeah.
With everything.
One of my so I grew up in church, which I can't remember if you know that or not, but one of the things I found a lot of really powerful lessons from that time, and one of them was that the word passion means pain. And so you can be really passionate about something, but it doesn't mean it's going to be without difficulty, isn't going to be without trouble. Like passion is pain, not entirely, but passion can cause pain. So when you realize that, you stop looking for everything to be okay all the time. So, oh, well, I want to do something that I love, and this thing that I thought I loved is actually causing me a bit of pain right now. I mean, even in our like romantic relationships, right? The people we love cause us pain. Doesn't mean we don't love them, doesn't mean they don't love us. It's just the nature of life and living that there's pain attached sometimes to these things. So yeah, I can see how you still love it, even though it causes pain. And that's similar to my property journey, although I don't think I love it, although I do like buying things. I love the money coming in each month from the hard work that I've done and continue to do in some cases as well. But yeah, I find property quite a painful process, but I so believe in it for the long term of what it will do and what it will create. So you said right at the start that you began with no money. So how did that look? How did you get started in property? I know a lot of people will want to know that. How do you get started in property with no money? Because when I started in property, I was in the same position, except for I was generating cash flow and capital through trading, and that's what I used to kickstart my property journey, was my profits from trading, and then I used other funding sources as well. So how did you get going? How did you get started?
So my first way that I raised finance was through a joint venture partner. So I partnered up with a guy who did have money. We were quite complementary, really, because I was young and very excited, willing to really, willing to work very hard. He was at the other end of his life where he'd done all of that. He sold a business. He wanted a slower pace life. He liked property, but he didn't really. He was never going to view loads of smelly houses, and so he financed everything, and I just found the deals, did the work really. So that was kind of the first 6. Then I realised I actually needed more ownership, because I felt even though it was a JV partnership, I felt like actually they were his. I always felt like they were his. I wanted to build for me. So then I started working with private investors, buying in my own name, just totally on my own. When I say private investors, it sounds really formal, like corporate, but it's not. It's just like my mum's mate, or like just people I've met, networking. I mean, literally, when I think of the people that I've worked with, that I continue to work with, it's like dancers in the West End and police officers, and just like real normal people that have got like 50k or 20k or 100k, and they want to get a good interest rate. And then I've got this amazing deal and I need 30k for whatever. And then, that's kind of how I've grown my portfolio, really.
So how is that? I mean, the private investing thing is something I did as well. And I got to the point where I hated that as well. So I did JVs, and with the JVs, I felt like I didn't have enough control. I was building this thing, but I wasn't going to see the real return for me for many, many years. And I was like, that leaves me feeling quite uncomfortable. And then I went to the private lender style of lending, which was okay and got me more properties. But then again, I was like, oh, I need to pay these people back. And that, if the deal was downvalued or whatever, meant it took longer for me to pay them back, and it became uncomfortable. So I've now paid off all we call them angel investors, private investors, other than my main JV from back in the day, who I'm gradually paying off as well. But I've got him on a nice interest rate, so I'm very happy. So with the way that inflation is right now and everything like that, working with private investors, are they expecting a greater level of interest than they were prior to this? Are they still happy with whatever rate you give them, or are they looking for more? What's that kind of looking like, that landscape now?
Do you know what? It's never changed for me. And I think I've always given a good rate. So I know that when the base rates are 0 or 1%. Some people have been paying their angel investors 5%. I've just never done that. I've always had my angels have always been between 8 and 12%.
Yeah.
So it's literally not one of them has come to me and said, can I have more? Because I think I've always paid when I said I was going to pay. I've always done what I said I was going to do. So to them, I think they're like, why rock the boat? 10%. Most of them get 10%, and they're like, that's great.
Yeah. And it is a great interest rate. I mean, you can make more through trading. However, that's another skill set to learn. Do you think because I know there are, and I'm more interested in your opinion on this, there's people who kind of get started in property, they're super excited, they're super eager, and they kind of get themselves trapped in a bit of a rabbit hole with using other people's money, because maybe the deal doesn't do quite so well. And so they manage to find more borrowing from somewhere. So they start borrowing from Peter to pay off Paul. Is that what the phrase is? And I've seen this happen quite a few times. I even been involved in deals where I realized I'm the lender, and I realized they're doing that with my money, which is never a comfortable place to be. How do you think people end up in that type of situation, and how can they avoid it?
So it's funny you should say that, because some of my coaching clients are in that situation as lenders with somebody, and he has lost his head, and he obviously owes a lot of people a lot of money. and his head's gone.
Yeah.
So I think, I to be honest with you, think that when we've been at the top of the market and people have been buying bad deals. They have. Like, it's just, there's been a lot of like property gurus telling everyone, keep buying, keep buying, keep buying. And you're like, what are you doing?
What are you doing? Why?
What are you doing?
Yeah.
Why are you telling everybody to keep buying at the top of the market when they're not good deals? There's no discount. There's no, and people are running their figures on inflated figures that aren't real. They're not real numbers. And that's why I think this is happening now, because the air's come out the bottom of the market. And it's a cycle. And so when people are being told and trained and coached and everyone on Instagram, buy, and shamed almost, if you're not buying, you're lazy, all this shame, this is ridiculous. People are feeling like to keep up with everybody else, they've got to be buying these terrible property deals, using other people's money, when actually, the market calms and we see the reality. If the property was never worth that, where are they going to go? Because they're in negative equity.
Yeah.
That's where they're buying bad deals.
Yeah.
And it can happen at any time, but it's happened more the last few years when people have just fudged the numbers.
And I think I completely agree. I think there's a lot of education companies out there in property world who are doing that. And again, it's an easy sell, right? Property doubles every 10 years. Well, not in every area, let's be honest. That doesn't happen. So it depends where you're buying, depends how you're buying, and it depends on a lot of other factors to make that happen. Yes, we've seen that boom happen over this X number of years. Is that going to continue? I don't know. Potentially, because we still are an island, we still don't have unlimited number of houses, we're still in a housing crisis. All of those things would suggest possibly, but there will be a point where people cannot afford to pay the numbers. So what I see happening is new education companies coming to the market and needing testimonials, so they're pushing, right? That's what they do. And yes, buy and hold for the long term is a great strategy if you're using your own money, but when you're not, those people need to be paid now. They need to be paid today. And if you can't do that because you don't have income streams coming from elsewhere other than property, and your property isn't tenanted, your property is like a bad deal, so it's not going to even cover its face with the way that interest rates are right now. I mean, I was having a conversation with someone the other day, and they have decided to get started in property when they've only got £20,000. And I'm like, and they don't want to use other people's money or anything like that. I'm like, what are you going to do with that? You'll maybe buy one property, and then what? And that one property is probably going to be making you, if you're lucky, £300 a month cash flow, if you're lucky. Like, what are you doing? Like, great, £300 long term, I get it, that's fine. But you'd be better off doing something else to either raise capital, like trading, not to plug, like trading, or something which is
not a plug, not a
plug, or something which generates that capital, right? And I think when you get to the point where you've been doing it a while, you can see these things. And I caveat all of this with, if I hadn't have made the mistakes and done everything I'm advising people not to do, I wouldn't be where I am today either. So there's that too. But I'm like you. I've always paid my investors back on time. The amount I said, never ever missed it. Even when it's come at a personal cost to me because a deal has gone south, I will always make sure I pay people back, because you lose that integrity and that trust straight away if you don't. And it's not worth it for me. I'd rather be in the negative myself than have them in the negative.
Same. That's exactly how I've always operated my business. And I would say it's only, to be honest, I'd say 90% of my deals have always valued up. It's only really, which is the biggest one, Empress Hall. But it's just, I think the reason why I'm kind of relatively chilled about it is I know that is not the valuation.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm kind of just a bit more like, you're an idiot because you are wrong. Like, you've no comms. Like, it's just the wrong valuation. So I know that it will come good. Yeah. And it's a good deal, and it cash flows very well. I was
about to say, it helps that it cash flows quite healthily.
It brings in, it turns over a lot of money. It's a business. Like, I've started a business, so it's kind of one on its own. All of my other deals, which have always been, buy to lets, little blocks of flats, I've always bought so cheap. Yeah. So cheap. That it's kind of been like now, my latest one that I've got going through is a massive tenanted shop, and it's got two, so it used to be flats. They're still laid out as flats, but they've had planning as offices years ago. I'm just going to turn them back into flats. I'm getting the whole thing for 97k.
Wow.
And I'm going to have to spend about 35k on it, and the done up value is 205.
Yeah.
Do you know, there's so much room in there for error.
So how do you now go about finding that type of deal? What is it you do to get access to that kind of deal?
Do you know, I don't know if goes about direct to vendor, and I've definitely done my fair share of all that stuff, leafleting, but I don't do any of that anymore, really. Like, I think because I don't buy as much as I used to, because I've already got a big portfolio, you get to the point where you're like, oh, I don't know how many more we need, really. Do you
Yeah.
know, but you want to diversify. So quite specific with what I look for. So that was just through a commercial agent. It was on for 125. I think I offered 94 to begin with.
Yeah.
And we got 97. I've bought from them before. We've got a relationship. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of like I don't offer on as much, but when I do, it's much more niche now.
Yeah. Yeah. And so relationship with agents, that type of thing, but also just spotting an opportunity and holding true to the figure that you think will work for you.
Yeah, and just being willing. I think people get so embarrassed about putting in a cheeky offer.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like, it's not personal.
Yeah.
Like, they won't take it unless it works for them. They're not going to say yes if it puts them into financial difficulties. Like, they're going to have to hold out for what they need. If they say yes, it's because no one else has offered anything more. Like, maybe they're just absolutely thrilled for your cheeky offer because it's the only offer that they have.
This is such a brilliant mindset to have, and I wish more people had that mindset. Like, for example, when this house I'm in right now, my home, when that was on the market, it was on the market for I think 475, and I put in an offer at 420, and then we negotiated up to like 42750. But there's no way it should have been on the market for 475. Like, it just wasn't. It needed a full renovation, like everything doing to it, which we've now done to it. But we needed to pay the lower price because there was so much work to do, and they were happy to accept it. Like, if they weren't happy to accept it, they wouldn't say yes, and if they had another offer, they wouldn't have said yes.
Exactly. When it's on the open market, it's open for everyone. And if it's worth more, people will pay. Like, people will pay what it's worth. And that's always been my kind of mindset and argument. And if I'm going in with a real cheeky offer, I'm kind of like, I don't want to offend anyone. You know, obviously, if they get a better offer, great. But if they don't, this is where I'm at because I'm an investor and this is my business. This is not emotional for me. And again, like that's what you have to do so you don't end up in these situations where people have paid too much and now they can't afford to, you know, they've got these terrible deals that don't cash flow.
Yeah. So how do you take it to that mindset thing again? How do you, when it is tough, like Empress Hall has obviously got tough things going on, what is it that gets you out of bed in the morning and continues doing what you do? Because a lot of people would give up. A lot of people would just be like, right, I'm having a duvet day and stay in bed for a whole week. I mean, I'm definitely a little bit prone to that, but I force myself out. And I've got my reasons for forcing myself out of bed. So what is it for you that gets you out of bed?
Well, I've got kids, so I'm up early. The boys. I think it's phases of stress. I think the beginning of this year, I felt very like plagued, and everything felt heavy, and I felt quite. You know, like the seasons of life, there's chapters of life, and not every chapter is going to be great, and sometimes it's just really shit and really hard, and especially in the winter when. So we've not got huge amounts of serviced accommodation. We've got 11. And so for us, summer's amazing and winter's a bit shit. So, you know, so kind of if it's coming in at a time as well where I just remember the beginning of the year feeling quite nervous and stressed. And then when everything came in with the valuation and everything, it's heavy on your heart and I feel anxious. It makes me feel really anxious. I don't have panic attacks, but definitely like I wouldn't go, it bounces off me. It doesn't, it cripples me, but I just feel like that can only last for so long. So if I feel crippled, I'll be like, oh God, this is so stressful. And I write down what can I do and what are the options and because I actually literally was like, just sell Empress, you know. What feels good, like what's going to lift this weight, and then the weight just disappears because you kind of just realize that you can over catastrophize something and then just kind of like, okay, well, is it actually a good asset? Yeah. Does it bring in a good income? Yes, it's a really good income. Is this relatively short term? It's a short term problem. It's a terrible time to try and mortgage something like that because of everything that's going on with the banks, like and the mortgage rates. So I wouldn't say it's not that I'm immune to it, but there's something in me that I am really aware of, that I have some fire that I cannot put out and no one can put it out.
Yeah.
So that fire in me will just, there's something in me that I just go, "Ugh," and I can't put it out. So I
Yeah.
will fall down and I'll get, if I'm knocked down 9 times, I always get up 10.
So what is the fuel to that fire?
Honestly, I don't know. What is the fuel? It's definitely beyond, it's beyond money, and it isn't like about possessions for me. Really, it's not that. It's nothing like that fuels me. I don't know what it is. I don't know whether it's I don't know, to prove to myself, or I don't know. I really don't know. But it's not
Question.
Yeah, it's a very good question. What is that? It's just, yeah, I've always had it really, but I just know myself. I've got fire in my blood.
Yeah. I think I'm quite similar. Like I don't give up. I just keep going, even when I'm feeling crippled because this isn't going right, that's not going right. And I'm prone to a bit of that anxiety and catastrophic thinking. But I never give up. Like I just don't give up. And I think if I think about what the fuel is to my fire for that, I don't know if I've really asked myself that question, but thinking about it now by asking you, I think I'm so concerned, wrongly, but this is where it's coming from. I'm realizing so concerned that it's all going to be taken away from me, and I could work so hard and do all of this and do all of that, and it's good for whatever reason it's going to be taken away from me. It's probably some childhood trauma somewhere behind that, but I feel like if I'm talking about it, it feels a bit like maybe that's what's
I feel like I might have that.
Yeah.
Fear of someone taking it from me. Fear of do you know, I might have a bit of that.
Yeah. So that's why I think I'm so like hell-bent on security right now, which, like we were talking before, my main strategy in property right now is paying off my mortgages, because I've got zero risk. I don't owe the mortgage company anything. They can't take anything away from me. They can't increase my rates. Like one of my buy-to-lets went from 3% to 10% like overnight, and I was like, what is going on here? Like, it just doesn't make sense. And I'm so paranoid subconsciously about it being taken away from me that I'm going to do everything I can to make sure it can't be taken away from me.
That's really powerful. Really. And I love that you're doing that.
Yeah, and people think I'm crazy, especially in the property. They're like, "Oh, but you can leverage, you can make so much more money." Blah 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 blah. It's like,
but then I think once you build that leverage is for the building. Yeah. Once you've got to a point where you're like, and that's why I keep saying, like, sometimes I'm like, when's enough? Because if you never stop buying, you never get to the stage where you then what's the word? Consolidate, where you start to be really strategic and go, should we sell them to pay off these? And because otherwise you're in build mode forever, which means you're in leverage forever, and then you can't really, like, you need to look at the bigger picture. So that's why I'm going to stop this year. I'm going to stop, and then
you bought again.
Or I do need to just start thinking, doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because if I paid off all of my mortgages, the cash flow would be obscene.
Yeah.
I don't need to buy another thing ever.
Exactly. And that's kind of what you want, right? Because we all got into this game because we wanted freedom of choice and freedom of time. Like, my own trading is 30 minutes a day, and then I get to do what I want. And then I set up a business, which doesn't mean I can do what I want because I've got a lot of people to help, but that's my internal mission. Like, I'm on this planet not to just trade for 30 minutes a day. I'm on this planet to empower other people to live better lives in every area of their life, and trading and teaching them how to trade is one way that I do that. But the reason we got into this game is because we wanted freedom of choice and freedom of time to do what we want. And so if you're constantly in stress mode, and stress becomes addictive, that's the other thing. It does become addictive and it becomes your norm. Like, I do it now. Like, I got married, so planning the wedding was stressful, right? And it not stressful from like, oh, we're falling out and arguing, although there was a bit of that. Stressful just in the sense there's a lot to plan and a lot of moving parts. And then that stress got out of the way. And within 2 months, I was looking for the next stressful thing. And I was like, what am I doing? So now we put our house on the market and we're moving house again. Like, I mean, that is the right choice. But I'm like, right, and I've not got any stress. I feel really calm. This doesn't feel normal. What can I do? Let's move house.
Yes. Yeah. I know. Yeah, I know. And you know what? So it takes me so long to get into that peaceful place that once I'm there, I'm like, who is this? Who am I?
Yeah.
I'm going to do yoga every day.
Yeah.
I'm a woman of love. I'm going to be with my children. And then, on holidays, this is the new me. And then I can't help. Do you know what? Even Instagram is like, it's like a trigger of stress, almost of that
Yeah.
addiction
It
kind
is.
of like. And when I'm most stressed and I'm running in that place of it's not good for your health, I have this like real obsessive check my emails, check Instagram, check Facebook, even though I don't post on Facebook, check Facebook,
Yeah.
over and over, and I have to go to myself, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Put the phone away. Mate, no one's messaging. There is nobody.
Yeah.
No one. Put it away. I delete Instagram off my phone sometimes because I just think, just go out and get in the trees.
And you're right to do so, because you do get trapped in that cycle of check this thing, check that thing, check, like for what? Like for what? Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. It's like I'm searching for something to do.
Yeah. So going back to what you said about chapters of life, I'm using that as a segue, but I missed my opportunity to use it as a segue, so I'm just bringing it back to the forefront. You have written a book which is going to be released fairly soon, or has it just been released?
Tomorrow, the 19th. So it'll be out by the time this goes live. It will be out.
That is amazing. Yeah.
I'll show you it. Here it comes. Okay.
Oh, I love that. I absolutely love that. That's a beautiful book cover.
Thank you. I just went for it. I was like, it's like, I feel like one of the things that I've got, as I've got older, I've got a bit better at is owning who I am.
Yeah.
And not feeling embarrassed about it, but also just spotting gaps in the market. Empress Hall was a massive gap in the market, and I feel like this is a gap in the market for property. I've never seen a property book look like this before.
No, they'll have a picture of a property on the front or something.
They're all navy blue with they just all look the same. They're basically, I think, property books written by men for men.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what it looks like. That's what it feels like. It's very corporate. No, I just thought I've never read a property book that I feel has been written for me.
Yeah. So, what can people expect from reading that book then?
So to give you a bit of an overview, because it's really difficult to write about something knowing that it is actually quite stressful.
Yeah, yeah. And still recommend it to people, right? Because I would still recommend it to people, even though it's stressful.
It's going to be so stressful. It's going to be really painful, but still do it because you'll end up with assets and passive income. So actually, the whole first section of the book, I've got a whole part one, which is about mental health. It's about like owning, like a lot of the stuff that I feel like as soon as I got on top of this, my portfolio, my business kind of flourished. It's a lot of mindset. So it's like a lot of money work as well, a lot of money mindset work, because you have to have a good mindset with money to be trusted with other people's.
Oh, completely. Yeah.
There's like a lot of money skills work in this of like how to manage money well.
Yeah.
Because if you can't manage your money well, you've got no chance. So a lot of that stuff, and then just some key things like sleep, exercise, fueling greatness, Zen, probably dealing with stress, because it's like you're gonna have stress, so this is how we deal with it.
Yeah.
So that's the first part. The second part's all about different strategies, and then the third part is all the ways of raising finance. But then there's like a lot of storytelling in there. It's got all the stuff you need to know. So there's some parts where I'm like, I wish this wasn't so factual, but it kind of has to be.
It has to be, yeah. In elements, it has to be, yeah.
Yeah, elements like the bridging loan section. I'm like, this is just so boring. Well, I can't make it fun because it's not. Like,
no.
It is what it is. So some of it's really easy to read. It's really fun. And Alex said in some parts it's quite funny. He doesn't ever like to say I'm funny, so it must be if Alex said it's funny. Husband says it's funny in parts, but then it is also very informative.
Yeah, brilliant.
It's a good mixture, really.
Yeah, and I think you're right. There's definitely a gap in the market for something like that. And even just those 3 sections, I think are brilliant. You've got kind of what you need up here to handle what you're going to do. You've got what you've done, I suppose, in terms of your story, how you did it, what even property investing is and how to run the numbers, and then how people can actually get started with funding that journey if that's what they decide to do. I think it sounds brilliant. Yeah, sign me up for a copy. Tomorrow I'll get it. Yeah.
Your link, do not worry.
Sounds good. And a beautiful cover to have on your bookshelf as well. So
yeah, I am really chuffed with the cover. I didn't design it. I'm a really talented man called Tim did it, and I was like, Tim, you are a genius. Thank you. He literally got it immediately from my brain. He just did it.
Fantastic. How long did it take you to write it?
Only a couple of months.
Well, that's brilliant. That's really good.
Yeah, because I said I'm like a bit obsessive. I can't deal with stuff hanging over me, and
Yeah.
I just can't make it work to do an hour a day because I wouldn't do it.
You just have to go for it.
It would seem too big, to do an hour a day. For me, it takes me 15 minutes to just fanny around with my coffee and to get into the right minds.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I just know what to do it. So I took myself away.
You are so right. And do you know what? You've just given me a light bulb moment there, because that's why I struggle going to the gym in the morning. Because
Yeah.
when I sit down, I've had my coffee, I've faffed about, I've sat at my desk, and then because my gym doesn't open till an annoying time in the morning, so I can't go first thing. So by the time I'm flowing in work and doing what I need to do and seeing students and coaching people and everything, the idea of stopping that to go out the house to go to the gym, it feels like a massive thing in my head, because I'm like, I'm doing this is what I'm doing, I'm working now, I'm in flow. So yeah, that's maybe why I find that a struggle. Like that's why I forget to eat. Like if my other half doesn't cook for me, like I wouldn't eat. Like today, he came home like on a break from work. I'm also a police officer, and I was like, "What are you doing today?" Blah blah blah, all of that sort of chat. And then I said, "Wouldn't fancy cooking me lunch, would you?" Because I know if he doesn't do it today, I'm not going to eat, because I've got stuff going on. I've got this meeting, I've got that meeting. I'm not going to make the time to cook for myself because I've got stuff I want to get done, which is terrible behavior. But
I would say that's where we differ. I will always make time to eat.
In the evening, I will, but during the day, I'm so like. But the reason I'll make time in the evening is because I burn myself out almost every day, which is so not healthy. And I'm trying to learn a better behavioral system. But it is that ADHD thing, and I'm undiagnosed ADHD. Like I just, yeah.
You're in it.
Yeah.
So the flow thing, so you'd be able to write a book if you took yourself away. So I needed to like get rid of distractions, be away from my kids as well, because I can't really work when they're like, mummy, mummy, mummy.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I went away for 2 nights. Oh my gosh, it was heaven. It was heaven. Like surrounded by sheep and fields, and it just felt so special. If I like went to M&S and I bought all this like lovely food, and I didn't leave the place for the full 2 days. I didn't step outside, which is, I'm fine with that kind of stuff. And I was just eating my lovely food, and it just had this real magical, special feel to it of like, I'm going to write something.
Yeah.
I'm going to write something really good. And then I do like writing, but it's like, when you use the different sides of your brain, because I've been in property for so long, and it's just very like numbers, and there's a lot of it that actually isn't that creative. The creative side of my brain's kind of shrunk. So it took me a while to get it alive again. And it felt so lovely to write. It's like, I forgot. It was like my favourite thing to do at school. I'd be in flow at school. So do write.
Yeah,
so it was so lovely to like, because I knew all the stuff. All I had to do is like chapters. What do people
need? Just getting it out in a way that makes sense.
Yeah, so I'd have to do the titles, and I'd be able to just flow it out. But it was so lovely. Then you hit a wall, and I'd be like, oh, I'll go and. So that's when I'd stop, and I'd be like, I'm going to have my soup now with my lovely bread. And then I'd be like, right back to it, and then I'm going to stop and have my nuts with my coffee. Like it was So we did a third of it, came back, said to Alex, because I told him I'd do it in 2 days, which is ridiculous. So I was like, I'm gonna have to go away again. He was like, do we just do the book, get it done? Went away, did the second, like 2/3 of it, came back, did the rest at my kitchen table. But for the last third of it, I was already in that flow where I feel like my brain had changed at that point, so it was easier to get into flow. Yeah. And now I feel like my style of writing's changed on Instagram, where I'm writing these really, Alex is like, God, you're writing really long things. Yeah. And I feel like my brain's changed. Yeah. Where I've got so much to say.
And you realise how much you actually know. But because it's all been in the realm of experience, your brain needs to catch up and create language for that experience, which is why I think everybody should write a book, really, because it helps you to do that. Because I'm the same as I love writing. Well, up until recently, I've written all of my own Instagram posts, all of my Facebook posts, everything. It's all been me. And now they're kind of taking and adapting some of the old stuff that I've written. But I have my style, and I prefer my style. Like I prefer it and I enjoy it. So I really enjoy the writing and think about, right, how can I put this across in a way which is going to be impactful, inspirational, and educational at the same time. So well done on writing the book. I'm very aware of time, so I'm going to end our conversation now. But is there one thing that you would like to leave the audience with, other than, I'll do this for you, go and buy the book? It sounds fantastic. I know I'm going to be getting a copy, even though I'm not the target audience, because I'm not a woman, although I try my best at times.
Well, it isn't for women. It's written by a woman. It's written by a woman for everyone. It's very inclusive.
Yeah, brilliant. So what one thing would you like to leave everybody with?
I would say whatever it is that you really truly want to do, follow your heart, because it's going to be hard anyway, so you might as well do it for something you really believe in.
Yeah, brilliant. Love that.
Hard.
Yeah.
So do the thing you actually want to do.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I'm sure I'll speak to you more soon. Remember to check out the book, check out Kristina on Instagram as well. So it's thegoodlife_property. Property investor. Awesome.
Yeah, and it's Kristina with a K, Kristina Castellina.
Kristina with a K. Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Lewis.